Hi-ho! My name's Todd Fatal, and I'm here in Patchworld with a pretty straightforward little tutorial for anybody who's just getting started. And I'm sure you're one of those people, maybe they're like, look, there's so many things I can do, I don't even really know where to start. A lot of you like the experiment, and that's totally fine, but some of you need a little bit extra support. So one of the things you can always do is press this button right here on my controller, which is the library button that with the 3 lines on it. So you press that with your thumb and you get a really cool little display down here. It says world and it says record and it says library and settings. Well, so I start with my library. I said library already. And then I move through and I see all this stuff. And if I use my controller again, my thumbstick specifically, I can go through all of the different things that are on this menu. But also, you can do that on this side too. See? Thumbstick moves all of the different menu items down and up and down. But the best thing to really kind of learn your way around Patch is to try to figure out how do I bring things into the environment, right? Because some of you are like, you could do that? Oh my gosh, that's great. If there's a world that you go in and you have access to your menu button right here, you'll always be able to bring things in. Now, I wouldn't advise you to just grab whatever and start playing with it, because some of this stuff doesn't make any sense right at the beginning. It starts to after a while. But at first, it gets really overwhelming, and you kind of like, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm done. So I don't want you to have that experience. So let's start with something that's pretty simple. I go down to devices. Now devices is this button right here. Now devices, as you can see, all of a sudden there's all this stuff that comes up right in front of you that like, oh, I can bring this, I can tap on that. And you might think, okay, well, if I want this drum, how do I get it into the environment? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is you go put your controller inside of it, and you see it like darkens a little bit, and then you can press your little grip button and pull it into the environment. See? Now I've got this bass drum, right? So that's pretty cool. You can also do undo with your thumbstick. Easy as that. Or redo. I just redid. I redoed it. All right. But what I like to do is I like starting off with sort of a bigger thing, because a kick by itself doesn't really have a whole lot of, well, it takes a while to kind of get your groove on. So the first thing I do is I get a whole drum sequence going. And you find that down here in your sequencers. You see this thing that says blob drum? That's what we start with. So like I said, you can either hold your controller over it and then hold your grip button and pull it in, or you can also use the spawn button, the handy dandy little spawn button over here. I'm going to do that. Now the spawn button just brought this giant thing into our world here. See? And I can just hold it. I can actually move it around with my grip button. Hold it. It's like it weighs nothing, but it's like 50 times the size of me. La 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 la. Yeah. So there you go. Now you might think, okay, well that's cool, Todd. What are these things that say insert bubble? What is that? What is that all about? Well, you have to find bubbles, which are the samples that make the sounds that happen on this blob drum. So I'm going to set this over here so you can kind of see it in the background. Now I've got to bring the sounds in. So what I do is I go and I click my grip button on the sounds, and look, oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of different sounds right up off the bat. But what you want to start with is 3 different drums: kicks, snares, and hi-hats. And over here, as you probably imagine, oh, look, it says drums right on the top. So I click on that with my trigger button, and then it gives me a whole list of different things I can do. It says kicks, snares, and look, hi-hats. It says hats, not hi-hats, hats. So I'm going to click kicks, and all of a sudden, all my kick choices come up in front of me. So I'm going to pick kick 6 by doing that first way I showed you before. Now I've got this bubble. It's kind of a cool little thing, isn't it? I can just hit it by itself. But it's not in a sequence. I would have to keep hitting it, you know, and playing it like a drum. But I can also move it and put it into the blob drum on this first slot. Now wait, I'll get it going in a second, but I'll show you what's next. Now we find a snare that we like. Some of them are really obnoxious. That's a nice one. I'll do that one. Got that bubble. Put it in the middle. All right. Sound good so far? All right. Next is hats. Hats. Come on, hats. Let's bring you in. Hats go in the third slot. Now, here's where it gets a little fun. And you're going to see my hands, but not my face, because I'm not in front of the mirror when I'm doing this. But I want you to see what happens. So I'm going to turn around and look over here, which I don't know if you've watched any of the other videos about moving, but if you push both of your buttons, all of a sudden you've got this little thing that helps you kind of move forward and backward, and both of them will work like that. But if you hit both of them, then you can kind of turn around. It's pretty fun. And the more wider you are, the smaller the turn is. But if you're right here, woo, 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 you'll get really dizzy quick. So I'm going to turn around by just doing this. And now, when I'm over here in the blob drums, I can start the pattern by just pressing the button next to it. Hear that? Now, if I move this with my trigger button, I can pick the sequence that I like the best. I usually like my kick not too busy, so I'm going to put it right here. Now, sometimes you might accidentally hit something that you don't know. And like just now, I just accidentally selected this. Usually when you just hit the trigger button again, it'll stop selecting it. Problem with selecting is it gets into a whole other ball of yarn, if you know what I'm saying. Because you can select a bunch of things at the same time and then move them all together, but we're not doing that right this second. So just keep your shirt on. All right, coming back over here. Then this is where my snare bubble is, remember? And then I'm going to click that loop. Oh, there it is. You can hear it. Oh, I like that, where it is. Okay, so far so good. Now, we're going to go over here where the hi-hat is. It's nice. Yeah, hey, whoa, yeah. Now, I can adjust the levels by turning the knob. Now, the way I turn the knob is I use my trigger button, and then I kind of twist my wrist. I like a big kick, always. And the snare's not quite as loud as I'd like, so I'm going to turn that up. It's a little bit on the high side. I'm going to turn the pitch down a bit. No, maybe I'm wrong. Actually, the higher it goes, it sounds better. Okay. And the hi-hats are okay. I can take it or leave it where they are. Yeah. So now that's as easy as it gets right there for the drums. Now you're like, okay, got a little groove going. We got a little groove going. It's pretty nice, right? Well, so then you want something maybe that'll fill in the space a little bit. So I'm going to show you one of my all-time favorite devices. It's called acidic. Again, it's in the sequencers. I'm wrong. It's in the synths. Yes, in the synths. Now, here's one thing you need to know about this. All of this stuff is like as intense as you want it to be. You can change all the presets. You can make it bigger or smaller. You can do a whole lot of things here. But if you're just wanting to get started and get some good sound coming from your world that you just created, you just want to start simple. I wouldn't get too into bringing all the devices in, because I think then you're going to be like, what am I doing? But if you're the type of person that just is like throwing caution to the wind and saying, I'll do whatever, let's just try it, go for it. It doesn't matter. But one other thing that all of my people from Patchworld tell me is that they never really use the library the way I'm using it. They usually use the search bar right here, and they just type the thing that they're looking for in the search bar, because sometimes it takes too long to just find what you're looking for. Also, one thing that I think is cool is they have they have a way to, when you select your device, you can come over here and press your trigger button and press the favorite sign. So now you go up to favorites, and sure enough, acidic's right up there. So you don't always have to keep searching around. It seems silly to be doing that all the time, all your menu dragging and all that stuff. So I'm going to bring acidic in here by spawning it. And now it's this big old thing. Yeah, once again, I can hold it with my grip button and move it around, and I'm moving around. I've got a little bit of boombox on my shoulder, walking down the street and feeling real cool. Yeah. But this guy is super powerful. I'll show you. I'm going to move him over. Again, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move myself around, and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to move it next door to my drums. Looks pretty nice, right? Okay. I'm going to come over here. Now, all I got to do really is just press the play button. And it's already really cool. But some of you might want a little bit of the customization parts of this, and that's what I love about this particular thing. You can do so much of that. So I like coming over here, and sometimes I like the saw sound. So I use my trigger button to switch it back and forth. Yeah, I kind of like the saw for now. But then all of these levers, yes, levers, can be moved to get a really saucy little mixture of sassiness. So, like this. Ooh, that sounds like my tummy after I've eaten too much dairy. Oh my goodness, my stomach is going. Okay, now, one of the other things I like to do is press the randomize button. Now, the randomize button has a lot to do with what you change in the fill, accent, and legato. It doesn't matter if you know what those words mean. Fill means usually that you've got a lot of notes. So if I turn this down, once again, I'm pressing my trigger button and I'm turning it down. And then I press the randomize button again. Watch. Hardly anything. Randomize again. A tiny bit. So you're seeing that the fill maybe means how many notes are going to be in the sequence. I made it about halfway. Now it's a little bit more interesting. You might also notice that it's super low. And you might not like that sound so much, but you may. But over here on the side, hope I'm not losing anybody over here. You doing okay? Everybody all right over here? Huh? Okay. So over here on the side, you can change the range, and it immediately changes the range. So that means the notes go from a shorter distance to a longer distance. Now, the octave changes shifts the whole thing higher. Watch. I kind of like to keep it in the middle with the range at like 3 or 4. Then I press randomizer. Oh, yeah. Now, if you're a musician like me, one of the things you might think about is like, well, what are even the notes that are being played, right? It just sounds like a lot of. Well, if you're like me, you're kind of like, I want to know, I want to actually have certain notes play and other notes not play, right? So I'll show you a cool thing that this has, and a lot of the devices in Patchworld have this. In the back over here is the keyboard. In other words, the notes that are available or being played by the sequence. So I personally like it. Staying at C4 is about right, but you can come in here and you can switch it up by holding the trigger button and changing the notes quite a big distance, or move it so you're selecting the second number and you kind of move it a little more incrementally. See how you're going up just half steps up. Okay. I personally like a pentatonic scale, 5-note scale. I use D, E, F, G, A. Yeah, that's right. You know it. D, E, F, G, A. You got it. Those 5 notes are pentatonic scale that I like to use. So D, E, F, G, A. So now when I hit my randomizer and hit my play button, that's going to be D, E, F, G, A in some sort of random sequence, right? Okay, now that's already sound cool. But one last thing I want to show you is my second favorite device. It's called Vox Synth. It's it's in the synths. There's Vox synth. I'm going to pull it out with my trigger button. Oh. And you might think, okay, Todd, how do I, what's going on here? You've got this weird big device here. It's got so many things going on. Well, the good thing for you is the notes that you put on the back in the keyboard are going to be the same notes that are coming up on the Vox synth. You can't do a separate scale yet. So, it would start with the D, E, F, G, A. Then it starts again. Now watch this. Whoa. I'm just putting my hand inside of the little box here. I'm going to turn this off so you can hear me a little bit better. Now, the thing about Vox synth is there's so many things you can do. You can reach your hand in, and it stays sustained for as long as you put it there. And you can push it deeper in and hear the filter change. Woo! Pretty neat, right? You can also hold down your trigger button and get it a little vibrato. Watch. Well, that's not that big of a vibrato, Todd. What if I wanted more than that? Well, over here it says vibrato amount and vibrato rate. This is going to be nutty. Watch. Whoa. Right? Then this glide thing does what you think it was going to do. Like if I go from note to note, watch what happens. Pretty cool. Octave, the same sort of thing, idea. And there's things like attack and delay. If you want to attack me different, comes in a little bit softer, not so hard. And the decay can have this really cool. Yeah. So there we go. I'm going to turn that down, turn this up again, and then I'll end the video. Here we go. Watch this. Got it if you know the way. All right. So I'm going to turn all this off. And a few last words in this video. I want you to know that anything you want to try to do is probably something somebody has figured out in this app, in this world, you know? So I found so many different things where I just say, oh man, what if you could do this? And then I'm able to really be clear about what I want to do in my world. And then somebody goes, oh, here's how you do it. Let's get in a multiplayer and I'll show you how it's done. People are extremely friendly in this app and on the Discord. So I would highly suggest you watch all the videos and you do all that stuff, but also ask questions and somebody will answer and somebody will say, hey, that's me. I've done that before and I have a lot of fun with it. So anything you can dream up, it can work for you. You just need to show some initiative, put yourself out there, admit you don't know something. I started out just like some of you where I didn't know how to do any of it. And I got so much help from the developers and the people that make these worlds and instruments that I was just overwhelmed by how kind everybody was. So you try it out and you see for yourself how great it is. Okay. We'll see you next time.